we're known here in the city of Detroit as Goff truthers, as we like to say it. We've never been on the whole top 5 or MVP candidates, but we saw your list yesterday from the 33rd team, and you had him at 14. We're kind of wondering what goes in the making of this list for you.
I mean, I would say there's a couple of core tenets. Like, one, I'm very, very much someone who I like my quarterback to be able to do as many things as possible, and Goff kind of gets knocked for that in the sense that I think he's very, very good at specific things. I think he's very good at throwing over the middle of the field. I think he's very good off of play action. I think he's gotten actually better as a decision maker and not really putting the ball at risk, which I think is important. But I think in terms of the types of throws he can make, I think he struggles outside the numbers a little bit. And I think down the field, he's really, really good in rhythm and on play action, but he's not a guy who's going to throw late in the down the field. And he's not really a creator outside the pocket. So to me, he's just a guy who does a really, really good job at specific things within the offense. But that kind of dings in when part of my curriculum, or whatever you want to call it, is being able to do a lot of different things, and he just doesn't quite have that. The other thing is, I kind of like to imagine what every quarterback would look like if you just kind of put them in what is an average offense that is built to their skill set. And I think that's why some of the guys I have ahead of him that's why I have them ahead of him. If you put Stafford, I think, in an offense that actually had talent and was a little bit more conducive to his skill set right now, I think he would look and produce a lot better than Goff is playing right now. So that's kind of what goes into why I have Goff a little bit lower. I still think he's a really good quarterback and has done he's made a lot of improvements from his Rams days, but that's kind of part of why I don't have him too high.
And so you would have the same kind of stipulations or concerns about Tua Tagovailoa and Geno Smith, and that's why they're both also in that same grouping with Goff, I'm assuming?
Yeah, 100%. Tua especially, I mean, we saw what he looked like when he didn't have a good coach at all and didn't have Tyreek Hill, and then you kind of give him what to me is two of some of the biggest cheat codes in the NFL at this point.
Yes.
And again, he's kind of like Goff in the sense that there's a handful of things he's really, really, really good at. His timing is impeccable. His accuracy is really good, especially over the middle. But again, almost like Goff, it's he doesn't really do a whole lot outside the pocket. Sometimes his deep passing can be a little bit lackluster. So I think there's in that kind of tier that you just mentioned, the kind of, 10 to 16, 17, they're guys who I think are really, really good within certain parameters of an offense, and they can really run it really well. They're just not necessarily the engine for what's going on, if that makes sense.
By the way, Derek, I don't hate it at all. Like I said, we are the Goff truthers. I only have to deal with the Lions side of it, and some Tua fans too. I'm sure you're getting berated by Dolphins and Lions fans nonstop after that list.
Oh, you know it.
The one I do have a question about, though, I haven't been the biggest fan of Dak Prescott this year. What is it you've seen out of him to jump him up to 6?
I mean, truthfully, with Dak, I really just love the way that he plays. To me, there's something very almost artistic about watching a quarterback who is willing to stand in the pocket, get through all of his reads, command pre-snap, and be able to throw really every single level of the field. And I think that's something that Dak has always been able to do. And he's really, really aggressive within the structure of the offense. He'll throw really difficult corner routes, really tough dig routes on time. I always make this joke. There's not a seam route that he won't throw. He's gonna make that ball fit, whether it's open or not. And sometimes that does get him into trouble. But I just love how willing he is to push the envelope. And kind of like I mentioned earlier, I think in terms of his pre-snap awareness, getting them into the right protections, understanding where his hots are, there really aren't that many quarterbacks that are better at him than that. I think that's kind of his superpower. The reason and so that's kind of why I think he's so high. He doesn't quite have some of the creativity of some of the other elite guys, but I think with what I mentioned earlier, with being able to kind of do everything, to me, I think he kind of does a little bit of everything in terms of being able to run really a full spectrum of offense, make every single throw, all that type of stuff.
And another one that a lot of people I know, especially in our chat when we put that up yesterday, and I've seen it, on the post, had issue with was Kyler Murray, already at the number 11 spot, I believe. And even though, he hasn't played a snap yet this year coming off of that injury, what went into ranking Kyler Murray already just outside of the top 10?
Honestly, I think people just forget how good Kyler Murray can be. Like, I think when we think of Kyler Murray right now, we're all thinking of like that last year under Cliff, right? Where 2022, everything just didn't go right. Like, Cliff was kind of checked out. The offense wasn't as talented as it had been before. Kyler had kind of seemed to check out at a certain point, and they weren't hitting on anything deep, which is really like a big move away from what Kyler had been before. Because when Kyler was playing really, really well in like 2019, 2020, 2021, he was really, really good down the field. Like, that's kind of part of his game. And so the fact that went away, to me, I was like, okay, something is clearly wrong. That's not necessarily his fault, because we know that he's good at this. So to me, I'm just really leaning on what he was in 2020 and 2021, where at stretches he looked like an MVP quarterback. Like, not necessarily as good as like the Josh Allens or Joe Burrows and stuff, but like in that next tier after that, where it's like, okay, you're winning because of this dude, because of some of the stuff he can do outside of structure, because of some of the plays that he creates out of God knows what. I don't know what he's thinking sometimes, but he pulls it off because he's an incredible athlete with an incredible arm. So I'm kind of more just betting that some of the stuff that we saw in 2020, 2021 outweighs whatever BS was going on in 2022.
Yeah, I feel like some of the stuff with Cliff Kingsbury was just kind of like minimalistic, like him coming straight from college at the head coaching job. Because even when our lowly Detroit Lions 2021, they were able to nab one against the Arizona Cardinals here at home.
Broke their season.
Yeah, and from that point, it's kind of like they just were like just figured out that point. And Kyler Murray had tanked a little bit, but he's still number 1 overall pick, and maybe he can bounce back. He is a demon when he does get to run in those little ass legs. It's so fun to watch. Derek, I gotta ask. So obviously, I feel the same way about the same as you about Jared Goff. I think it's a lot more based upon like the system and pieces around him. And then, so with that being said, I have some stock banked in with Hendon Hooker. Former Heisman candidate before the injury last year. I know he's a little bit older, but he's a bit more athletic. I think he's skilled enough to make the same amount of throws Goff's making. What do you make? What do you think of Hendon Hooker?
Maybe you guys called the wrong guy, because I'll be honest, I wasn't huge on Hendon Hooker coming out. And part of my argument was just even before you watched what Hendon Hooker was at Tennessee and like what he was actually doing, to me, it was just like a 24-year-old guy who has a bunch of knee issues and is also coming from a Tennessee offense that we know is very
gimmicky.
It's Mickey Mouse. Like, they're not playing real football over there. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's like the Old Bailey type stuff. So that all to me was just a really concerning profile. So you throw that on top of when I watched him, I think his arm is really good. I think he's a really good athlete. And the one thing I will say about his decision making is, even though I thought he left some yards on the field at times and like they didn't ask him to do a lot of processing, he was really, really good at not making mistakes. Like he wasn't putting the ball in danger and stuff like that. So I think maybe early on they could get him to be like a game manager type and just kind of do a lot with his legs and really just not put the ball in danger. And then you hope that maybe with a little bit more experience, a little bit more actually being in a pro system, that he can develop into more of a legitimate starter.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same way Ben's been able to like make Jared Goff, and Jared Goff's looked good in systems beforehand, obviously, but Ben's been able to make him look. I mean, people here would tell you top 5. I was hoping he'd do the same with Hendon Hooker, who has a little bit more tools in his tool bag, I should say. But real quick, do you have another question, Smitty?
I just wanted to ask about C.J. Stroud, because I saw you had him top 10, and I honestly, when we looked at it yesterday, I was like, it's a little low. It's like this guy has been going. He's looked amazing. Like he set a rookie record for passing yards, had 5 touchdowns and a comeback win.
He's better numbers in golf right now.
Yeah, he's got 14 touchdowns and 1 interception. Like, what has this guy done to? I know he was great at Ohio State, and I thought he was going to be great in the NFL, but I didn't think immediately this great, especially in Houston. They got Nico Collins, who's very good, and Tank Dell looks great, but not top flight receivers or anything like that.
Yeah, I was a huge CJ Stroud guy too, and I'm telling you, this is what I thought he would be like if everything worked out like 3 years down the line. You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe that he's this dude out of the gate. I think the biggest thing to me is just part of the concern kind of that I had coming into the league was like, okay, this Ohio State system, it's not all that pro. Like, it's not quite as gimmicky as Tennessee, but like they do some stuff that's not really like very, very pro style. So I was like, okay, we've seen guys come into the league from this system, be a little slow to the take, or if they can get there at all. So I was like, even though I think Stroud handled the system very well, I was like, it's probably going to take him a little bit of time. No, dude, this guy plays as fast and as in control and on time as any quarterback in the league already. And like every now and then he's wrong, like he's going to leave some yards on the field, but like he's making mistakes fast, if that makes sense. And that's a good thing for a rookie, to just make the mistakes fast and learn. And like he doesn't really make the same mistakes twice. Like he's just, I think he's already such a cerebral player, such a smart player. And like the more that he hones that in, whether it's the rest of this year, next year, all that stuff, I mean, he's just going to be one of those dudes who beats you with his mind as well as anybody. And then you throw it on top of the fact, like, his arm talent, his accuracy is crazy. Like, it's already one of the best in the league. Like, he's just, that dude is phenomenal. Like, I can't buy enough CJ Stroud stock. That guy is crazy.
All right, then real quick before I let you get going, I apologize for taking up so much of your time, but we have a young quarterback in our division right now, Jordan Love. At the beginning of the season, I didn't know what to make of him. And now at this point, I just feel like he's trying to force too many big plays. I don't know if that's on his head coach or is he just not it? Because he's been in Green Bay with that system for a long time, too. What are you making of him so far this year?
He's such a weird quarterback to evaluate because I do think he has his flaws. Like, I don't think he's all that accurate right now. I think sometimes he can get into his own head a little bit and go on, like, these rough stretches. Like, he's a very streaky player, if that makes sense, like, very momentum-based. He can get hot, he can get cold, which is maybe natural for a first-year player. But I think really the biggest problem is that offense is just so young. It's so green. Like, when you insert a first-year player into the lineup, or a first-year quarterback, you expect that quarterback to have some bumpiness, but you're hoping that other veterans around him will kind of make up for it and stabilize the offense. They just don't have that. Like, all their receivers and tight ends are first and second-year guys. They've been rotating a little bit at the offensive line because they've had some injuries. So, like, you add on top of some of Love's inconsistencies with all the other guys being really super inconsistent, and they just can't really find their footing on offense. So I think I expect them to give him another year because he is so talented, and like he isn't a total train wreck. He is doing some things, but I just don't think it's going to work out this year. I think they're going to have to wait and see what happens next year with a few more reps.
I agree with you, man, for sure. And Derek, we appreciate you joining the show. Appreciate you breaking down your
quick,
list.
one last one before I let you go. Lions versus Chargers this weekend. Who you got?
Oh, I think Lions. I don't trust the Chargers team. I love Justin Herbert, but I just don't trust the Chargers team.
That's fair.
That's fair. Derek, I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you joining us, man.
Thank you, guys.
Before you go, tell the people where they can get more of your content and see what you got pumping out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at QBClass. That's QBClass with a K. I do NFL stuff at 33rd Team, NFL Draft over at Bleacher Report, and then some quarterback charting stuff over at Reception Perception.
I might hit you back up around draft time, man. Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Hell
Love
yeah,
it.
man. Appreciate you, Derek.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Derek.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man.